to everyone out there, thank you for joining us today for the inaugural Build Your Empire Leading Ladies of Mortgage Virtual Mastermind. Special shout out to Mitch Peek for having the vision and execution to making this happen. I'm Laura Brandao, the president of ALR, and I am honored to be here because our intention today is to spotlight a few mortgage ladies that are going to educate, inspire, and leave you ready to make some powerful changes to your brand and your business. For the next 45 minutes, we are going to have a roundtable discussion that will provide you with a sneak peek as to what you're going to hear from them today. I would like to introduce my roundtable participants. We have Corrina Carter, the broker owner of CMS Mortgage. We have Jamie Cavanaugh, the COO of AmeriFund. We have Kiran Shah, the area president at First Option Mortgage. We have Ginger Bell, the CEO of Edu Marketing. We have Michelle Vaughn, the broker owner of Paradise Mortgage Brokers. And we have Kelsey Rauchut, the growth coach and national business development manager at AnnieMac. Oh, I cannot even tell you how excited I am to see all you lovely ladies here. Okay, let's dive right in. We're going to start with Corrina. Okay. You're up first, Corrina. Our topic is going to be how to grow and maintain your teams during a time of growth, and having the challenge of how do you create and keep the culture that you desire. Can you give us a little bit of some sneak peek into that?
Absolutely, Laura. I'd love to. I am going to share today the top 15 things that I wish someone would have sat down and kind of wrote out for me when I started my business 15 years ago. So each topic I'm going to talk about with the 15 things I've learned, you can take away something from it in order to put into your business, and how to keep that culture going. What that's like working with your family, your friends, and your colleagues of 20 and 25 years. So all the things that I'm going to talk about is bringing something unique that you can do yourself and how it applies to your business, whether you're in mortgages or something else altogether.
Wow, I love that. Can't wait to hear all about that. Okay, so next up we have Jamie. You are going to share with us how to keep a customer for life while using technology and automation. Please give us a little bit of an overview of that discussion.
Good morning. Well, I'm really excited today to talk about building customers for life from every stage of the process, and how over the last 20 years, we have built a huge database that has sustained our business through every market.
Absolutely. And then what to do with it, right? Absolutely. So over this time, I mean, and I think we can all agree, right, ladies? We've all been in the industry for quite some time, you know, at different levels. And we've seen these cycles, right? We've seen the ups, we've seen the downs, and we're constantly in the mortgage industry, we're chasing, right? Every end of the month, every news cycle, whether it's a refi boom or whether the rates are going up or pandemics come, whatever the case may be, we have these cycles that happen. But if we're not utilizing all of these databases and knowledge and information that we have gathered over time, boy, are we doing this a very difficult way. Because it's not necessary, right? I mean, we have this data, we have this information, and we don't have to have this constant chase. So love it. Can't wait to hear more about that, Jamie. Okay, Kiran, good morning. Okay, I'm very much looking forward to hearing you speak about the importance of having a diverse and inclusive team. So please give us some information as to how you're going to describe that and the importance of diversity.
I would love to. So my discussion is going to be based on the diversity that we have within our company. Being a minority, being a woman, coming from actually from an IT background into the finance industry, I'm going to share some of the steps I've done and as a company we've taken to create the diversity we have within. And these steps, again, like everybody else is saying, it's going to be, you can do this in any format, at any position that you're in, and it'll help you grow your business at the same time and create that diversity and the inclusion within. So I'm excited.
Wow, that's awesome. And listen, again, I've been in this business a very long time. And the joy that I am feeling at this moment, just looking at us doing this event, that in itself has come so far. It's something that you didn't see years ago. It wasn't, maybe there was one woman included on an event, right? And you didn't see a lot of different ethnicities or diversity on anything that you went out and you saw. So the fact that now we've started to make these strides, well, we have to continue to do more. We have to continue to be open to that. And we know that any time that you have that table, and that table is filled with all different people, all different shapes and sizes and ethnicities and genders and everything else, all you do is gain more value because you're able to get insights and perspectives that are different than you. So anytime we can do that, I can't wait to hear you speak about how we can all make a difference and how we can, and it's necessary. I mean, this is not an option anymore. This isn't a buzzword. It's like you almost hear diversity and authenticity all the time, right? I mean, those are like the two words that you hear all the time. So it's time now to not just say it, but to act on it. So thank you very much. Can't wait to hear all about that. All right, Ginger. Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning. All right. Now you are going to share with us how we can leverage our strengths and how to implement them into our businesses. And I know you've got a chock full of information and insights that you are going to share. So give us a little bit of information about that.
Yeah. So, I think oftentimes we forget to first identify what our strengths are, and then second, share what those strengths are with others. And oftentimes being able to do that and do it in a positive way can help us build our brand. And then that's the other thing I think, and especially as women, for some reason, we're just not real great about saying what we're great at. And so in the second part of my presentation, I'm going to talk about finding those strengths first and then how to build a brand around it that doesn't seem like you're bragging. And so some of the things to be able to do that, I've been using video a lot over the last several years with my clients. And so I'm going to share some ideas on how to be able to incorporate your strengths into videos and share them with your business partners, with your team, and be able to really go out and promote yourself without seeming braggy or like you're just like tooting your own horn. So how to be able to really leverage on those strengths.
I love that. And I know that this is a topic that you actually have spoken about before. And you had mentioned that the response and the reaction to it was very positive. And I'm just curious, like, what was some of the response, to your previous discussion on this topic?
Well, it's interesting. I have several large corporate clients in the industry. And so they bring me on to do what I call one-off, either planning or training or something different. And so they had a client that we were developing a monthly series of webinars before the pandemic. And so the topic I had was just us, it's great about you and what you do. Mm-hmm. And it's funny because I used to be a corporate trainer with Dale Carnegie Training, and we did a lot of that as far as identifying strengths, building on those strengths. And we don't see that a lot in the mortgage industry where we're doing that. And so I pulled some of that in, and I wasn't sure how it would be received. I was a little like, not sure. So we did the first webinar, I think it was back in April, with the client, and they loved it. In fact, they called and they said, our toughest LO who hates everything, hates every single training that we throw at him, loved it. And so consequently, then I did it internally for this client with all of their sales staff. and had the same response that, first of all, to sit down and identify your strengths. We don't do that.
Nope.
And so just the pure exercise of going through that. And I had shared, and I'll do the same thing in my presentation, send me what your strengths are. I want to know what your strengths are, because that's part of sharing that, is to be able to do that. And I was amazed at how many emails I got. And then consequently, the account executives, the sales reps said, hey, can you do this externally for us as well? So one led to the other. And so when we were having a discussion about what do we want to share, oftentimes I do a lot of speaking on videos and YouTube and things like that now, that I really wanted to bring in that element, especially right now with what we're going through right now with the pandemic, to be able to really find that strength within and help others find that strength within. So that's really my goal, is just to be able to build that strength within you, within our community, within what we do, and have you share that.
Yeah, and I love that. And I think you are correct. I think we all feel like, well, maybe we shouldn't focus on that because it makes it seem like you use the word bragging or we're promoting, self-promoting, right? There you go. We're self-promoting. But if you think about it, and it's, I love to read books all the time. And I was recently reading one where a gentleman said, don't you understand that we all are winners because we were born? And when you think about that, he's like, what are the odds at that moment you were created? You. And every single one of us has a uniqueness that is different than everyone else in the entire world.
Right.
So why would we not want to understand our strength? Because our strength is our uniqueness that we were born with, that we are supposed to share and utilize it in our personal and professional lives. It's all for the good of others. So that's wonderful. And I'm glad that we're kind of going a little outside the box of speaking about some things that, you don't normally hear about. And I love that. We're learning about diversity. We're learning how do we grow, but keep our culture the same. We're learning about customer for life, where it's not, oh, we did that loan 3 years ago, they're finished. No, they're still your customer, and for life. Absolutely. Okay, Michelle, you are going to be speaking to us about recruiting good talent. Now, as you know, I don't know if you guys were watching the pre-call, with Mitch and Jason, but they were saying Michelle went from being a single, broker owner to now she's on fire, so I know you are actually going to be speaking about how that has matured and kind of pushed yourself into a direction of, hey, I didn't even necessarily ask for this. People were coming to me, this was drawn to me. So give us a little bit of a sneak peek.
Okay. So yeah, I would say this kind of started about 18 months ago, not long after I had joined AIM. And, one of the biggest things that I'm going to be talking about is, showing up every day and becoming a part of a community and giving back, because it's a lot of people have called me or messaged me even this week. I still have a message I haven't responded about how are you recruiting and how are you doing this? And I'm, my biggest response to that is I give as much as I can of myself. And it seems like people are, it sounds so cheesy, you know what I mean? Because some people get up front and like, okay, that's not what I was expecting, but I give as much as I can to the community. I, realized there was a lack of, education out there. And, so I created these Zoom calls where I would get on once a week and just help people. And, we did that for 1.5 years. And so it started like gradually people would come to me and be like, hey, can I work for you? And I'm like, well, I'm not hired, And so I'm going to kind of go through the fundamentals of over the last 18 months, because a lot of people are like, oh, you're just on fire. This just started. No, this is something that I had just been planning, talking to my superiors, talking to my mentors, digging in all the, people's brains like Corrina and, come in and how are y'all doing it? How is the fundamentally things to make each plan of action happen? And then over a 12-month period, then I made followed those plans, and then now you're seeing the fruit of that labor. And so it's necessarily not something that I even set out for. I never, I was kind of born and raised in this industry. And so it's kind of one of those things where I never had if you'd asked me 18 months ago, I never had the vision of where I'm at today in several states with several LOs. And, so I have to constantly regroup. I have to constantly fail forward. That's something I've always, hiring is not easy. Maintaining, like having those employees who do and can get it and have the passion and the drive that you have, failing is a part of the success. And so it's a matter of not stopping, even though you have a bad day or a bad week or whatever. You just get up the next day and you say, what's next? And so that's going to be mainly, and I have a bullet plan, but
and don't tell us too much, because I want to make sure you have. But you said some really great things there, Michelle. Number one, it's always easy for people to say, wow, look at you now. Look at what you've accomplished. Now, we all know it didn't happen overnight. We all know that those things were the grind that was going on, whether it was 1 month, 1 year, 10 years, whatever it was. We took action in order to make that happen. So congratulations for taking that action. Now, the second thing is community. Another thing that I'm very proud of in our industry right now is you probably have more community happening than I have seen in my entire career. I've never seen the amount, and I don't know if that's because there was a pandemic and people are online more. I don't know. I don't know what the reason is, but there is a lot of wonderful, positive community. But you do have to show up, and you do have to contribute, and you do have to be part of it, because what you put in, you will get out. It absolutely does work. And being a giver, we also, as women, that's kind of natural to us, that we are people that naturally want to help and take care and share. That's a beautiful thing. People need that. And you're doing that. So all of this that's happening and why people are drawn to you is because they see that. They see you showing up. They see you taking action, and they see that it's going in a positive way. Now, the other thing you said is you fail forward. You're never going to learn anything if you don't have failure. We have all made boo-boos. We have all made bad decisions that were like, whoop, that didn't turn out the way I expected. We all have done that, but we learned. And we learned, whoop, not going to do that again. Okay, we're going to change that plan the next time. That's how we learn and grow. So thank you. Excited to listen into that. All right, Kelsey. Oh boy, Kelsey's got a big topic, guys. All right. Social media and branding, okay? And how to dominate. So Kelsey, you are an absolute powerhouse when it comes to this. So we all certainly are going to listen in and take note and learn. So give us a little bit of a sneak peek as to what you're going to discuss with us.
Yeah, well, listen, thank you. And I think we all are speaking from a place of experience. So I think that's where we really light up, and it's exciting for us to be able to pour back what's worked for us. In building a company, full force recruiting, you're constantly walking down a path of people who necessarily don't always want to be recruited. Customers don't always want to be called, and referral partners who have their top, loan officers that they're already working with. So you're constantly breaking down barriers. So I'm going to be touching on really how to build a brand that is inviting, how to be the common denominator, breaking those comfort barriers and really gaining mental toughness, the power of video messaging. I'm going to be getting deep into reflection and recognition and storytelling and how to document versus having to invent the wheel, defining your visions and your mindset and your passions and starting with your why. Really understanding what attracts. And at the end, I'm going to conclude with building out your own personal branding roadmap. So if you can just follow the footsteps that I know many others have taken, it will really be able to invite others to step into your world. So I'm super excited. I've every time I do this, I add new pieces, new color commentary from experiences to what I've learned to what, I've been able to connect with some of the powerful players. But for me, it's, basically next year's business plan is over $1 billion in acquired volume, and we just about hit that this year. So I think it's time to smash the goals and set some higher ones. But ultimately just pouring out to everybody what's worked and what makes you different and what attracts.
I love it. And look at what's happening. If you listen to all the different topics, look at how they all intertwine. Like if you really think about it, and Kelsey, you're right on point when you say, okay, this is 20, I can't even believe it, but 2021's business model and business plans and all of these things as we're planning out how we're going to retain those customers, how we're going to recruit, how we're going to build our teams, how we're going to train them, how are we going to have the right mindset and include full range diversity and all build these powerful teams. You guys are giving them the roadmap. You are sharing your expertise and your insights to literally be able to map out what's going to happen in 2021. So this is powerful. This is something that, you guys are laying it out for them. So everyone needs to stay tuned and listen to all of these ladies because they literally are going to take you step by step of building out your 21. Awesome. Okay. So we have about 15 minutes. So I have one more question for each of you and we'll wrap up. Okay, Jamie, communication. Okay. How do you ensure that all of us, are communicating the way that our families want to be communicated in 2020?
Well, I have to say a big part of everything I'm going to be talking about today is the word consistency. The word consistency is like the theme, whether it's the family, whether it's the customers, whether it's our internal customers, like my team who, if it weren't for them, I don't think I'd make it through 2020. But, consistency, if we're not always sending a message that is consistent and reliable, but not just consistent, a message that people can hear. I think we have to understand how people hear us, how people communicate, what they understand and the way that they understand us. Not everybody communicates on the same level and in the same way. And so, what the biggest part of communication is listening. And if we listen to what the needs of the person on the other end of that phone or that email or that text message are, and we hear what they need, most of the time, we can respond to those needs and communicate with them in a way that they can hear and receive. And that, for me, has been the way that I'm able to communicate with my husband, my daughter, my team, my clients. And it's a big part of what I'm going to be talking about today and how we end up building this trust and these relationships in life and in business that last more than just through a transaction or a moment or a span in time, but actually through a lifetime.
100%. You are spot on with that. And it's very interesting. Now, if you read the studies, do you know that the human brain actually, when someone's speaking to you, is actually thinking of how to respond instead of listening?
Yep.
But you are correct that whether it's our personal lives or our business, if we actually just quiet and truly listen, people will tell us what they want next or how they want to be communicated. Love it, Jamie. That is awesome. All right, Kiran, give us your perspective on the importance of developing your team both personally and professionally. So not just giving them how to work, but also on the personal side.
That has to be a key part of development for anybody at any position, whether you're in the sales side or the operation side, for sure. Professional development, classes galore, whatever else you need. But balancing, especially with what's going on in the industry today, on the personal side has been key. And we've had mental breakdowns, too many hours of work. And the difficult thing is with so many of us being parents, not just moms, also dads, everybody being a parent, and having the children at home while we were at home trying to work and balancing this, this entire scenario has been very difficult. So it's key that you define what helps you create the balance, which could be different for everybody. absolutely be different. I know it's different from my family, but then understanding those key characters that will help you create the balance has been important. So what we've tried to do is, even during quarantine, we are trying to do small group gatherings, whether it's through Zoom, whether it's through FaceTime or Skype. We've started Microsoft Teams, and you want to just be able to connect with each other while they're at home, with the family yelling in the background, with the kids running around, right? You want to show them, you want to show the family that they're not alone, that you're not alone working alone at home while you're still learning, professionally. But on the personal, have that peace of mind that everything's going to work out. You are going to go to bed eventually, maybe at 3 a.m., but whatever it is, you will make it to bed eventually. But just using like certain activities, whatever brings you peace, really has been kind of our key. And I'll talk more about some of this too, about how we're doing it.
Because some have been very interesting, and it's great to continue to hear new, fresh ones, right? To keep our teams engaged and connected. And you're correct. I mean, I know for my company, we started to feel the anxiety raise as it got closer to the kids going back to school. And you started to see team members all of a sudden, have this. I had men calling me that have been with the company a very long time saying, Laura, I'm not sure about how I'm going to do this. The kids part-time. And I'm like, it's okay. I'm like, it's okay. We're going to figure it out. But yet they felt, especially the men, felt so scared about opening up their hearts and their mouths to say, I might need some help. We all need some help. It's okay. So can't wait to hear about that. Awesome. Okay, Ginger, what are your thoughts on educating teens and the different ways to approach training and education based on the individual? Here we are, we're all remote mostly. How do you make sure, just like Jamie's communication, how do we make sure when we're educating our teams and training them, how do you make sure that you're connecting in a way that works for that person?
Yeah, so very timely, obviously now, but I think important in anything that we're doing. And the first thing is, just as Kiran said, to meet with individuals and your smaller teams to find out what works for them. Because what works for someone is that to do Zoom meetings and to do group meetings or to do something that is maybe a virtual happy hour may not work for someone else. And it may be based on schedules. Maybe there's a baby or maybe there's small children. So I think the first thing is to really have one-on-ones with your team and find out what works for them and then work around that and let them know that that's okay. And then the next thing is to be able to organize really shorter. I think shorter is the idea. When we first got into the pandemic, and RHMI is one of my clients that I do training for. And so they contacted me and they had grounded, like so many of us, their entire national sales force. So we're talking literally hundreds of account executives who now are not able to go out and to do training and to do the networking and things that they normally would do. And they didn't know what to do. I mean, they honestly were lost. It's like, what do I do? And so what we did is we put together a series of online workshops and taught them how to do video. So Kelsey, you know that I can't wait to hear what you have to say. But really, what's the equipment you need? How can you do it? They didn't have the equipment, the software. And so they brought that on board. But break it into smaller bite-sized pieces. Because if you throw everything at someone at once, they're just going to freeze.
Yeah.
And, Michelle, you talked about starting to do the weekly meetings. And that's really how you started to grow. That's a great strength of what you have. And just being able to get in there and do that. So I think breaking it into smaller pieces and the consistency, just like Michelle did. We're all kids, even though we're grown up. And just like with your kids, they work off of consistency. Consistency really builds. And so it's the same thing with your team. It's the same thing with yourself. If you put it onto your schedule, I do a lot of coaching for video and YouTube for clients. And the biggest struggle they have is getting time to record video. And so I always tell them, you've got to put it in the schedule. And for some of them, I actually put it in the schedule with me. We record them together. And that way until they get into the habit of the cadence of doing it. So I think that's important when you're building communication and when you're educating. And then, it's just like we talked about the session that I did, what's great about you and what you do. It was a surprise for me on how many people liked that and how valuable that was to them. And so I think it's important to check in with your team, because what you may think they need is not even remotely close to what they need. And so I think it's important to speak to the audience. I jokingly say I got into doing a lot of training in the industry is because I knew how to make a PowerPoint and I knew how to do a GoToWebinar meeting. It's back in 2008 when we went through, and Corrina, you and I have been around a long time with all of this stuff. We started going through all the regulatory changes. It was just a matter of figuring out, what do people need to know?
And your strength.
And what's the trend? And so, for TRED, Michelle, you being a broker, different conversation. So you need to have different information based on that. So when I developed training for my wholesale partners, it was a different set of training for that. Whereas, Kelsey and Jamie on the retail side, then you're going to have different information there. Realtors are going to have different information. So I think it's important to know your audience.
I love that.
And to take the time to focus in on that.
Awesome. All right, Kelsey, how do you define visions, passions, and building your social media identity?
Yeah. So, every target that we have, whether it be, again, a recruit, a referral partner, or a customer, we're able to find out their story through social media. And I would say 73% of people are utilizing social media globally, and about 90% are millennials. So, as we are continuing to build and grow on our brands and our visions and really putting out our intentions, we have an opportunity our grandparents never had. The internet is like electricity. And for us, we can turn up that voltage at any time. So as we are building and breaking down those barriers and inviting people into our world, we have to really relay our intentions. There's perceived intent and actual intent. So as we are building out our brands, it's so valuable and important to get to people on a level that's just not surface. People use robots to go and just spam and automate messages through social platforms, and you can tell the difference.
Yeah.
And we live in a world where we can kind of be a little bit of a private detective and seek, their hobbies, their families, how many kids they have, what, levels of enjoyment they really find themselves stepping into, where they went to school, where they grew up. So I guarantee you, we all on this call know someone in common that we would have never realized, oh, wow, you know that person. Mm-hmm. So it's about seeking and finding that common thread and having a warm-up intro for you to then gain a stronger credibility and having a more at-bat when you're stepping up to the plate, cold calling. It's no longer a cold call.
Nope.
So for us stepping into, using these tools and slowing down and really seeing what do we have at our leisure to build our businesses in an authentic, genuine, real way where we're going to relate to people on a whole new level, and it's going to help us really stand out against the crowd.
Awesome. All right, Mitch, were you coming in or can... I thought, all right. Mitch, are you jumping in or are we still going? All right. We'll keep going until Mitch interrupts us. All right. So, Michelle, what do you think the best way to piggyback off of Kelsey's question? How do you brand yourself? What was your thought and premise on that?
She was speaking exactly how I built my business. You know, I was a single parent. I wanted to be home for my kids. So I've always worked from home. We started homeschooling about 5 or 6 years ago. So this whole pandemic thing I was doing Zoom meetings weekly. That's how I connected with the world. But I wanted to be home for my kids every day. And I wanted to be there. And so the best thing about 14 years ago is I got on Facebook and I just started talking, and I had no intent. Again, it's like I didn't go out there with the intention of, oh, let me make these people like me so they want to work with me. I just started being myself. This is the challenges I have as a mother. This is the challenges I have as a loan officer. Here's the challenges I have as a woman. And, you know, so I started just to be real authentic. I started, you know, it was a place where I had connected, and just started to really able to develop my own sense of self through social media. Because I'm 38. So, you know, I think my youngest kid was born on social media. Like y'all everybody saw the whole thing. I became a mother on social media, you know, and I know it's silly, but you know, all my failures again as a mother and what I didn't do, and my kid will never do that. And then it comes back to bite you. So, you know, social media has been a huge stepping point for me. And again, then in growing our team and finding it's all been based off of Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. And it's just been really being who I am, saying I'm sorry if I mess up. You know, I found the problem, I fixed it. And learning from watching other people and how they succeed. I just try to be authentically myself, but also
take little bits of information to be able to.
I'm not going to do everything Ginger does or Jamie or Kelsey, but I'm going to take all the, you know, I'm like, oh, I like that idea. And then I'm going to implement that into my daily routine. So, but social's how I built my business, like literally because I wanted to work from home out of my dining room.
Be yourself. Okay. Yeah. Corrina, last question before we run into your own individual, and ladies, you have been awesome. And my God, I can't wait to hear your individual sessions. Now, this is a great start. All right, Corrina, final question. How do you actually, when you're building your team, how do you integrate the experienced people that have been with you a long time with the newbies? What's the best way to approach that?
That's a really hard question, and it's actually something we've been going through for the past 6 months, as you may know, is hiring and training new people and then getting everybody to like them as well and want to do business with them, right? When you have the new kid on the block, it's like, what do they know? Why do I want to give them my business or handle this closing or even talk to this consumer? How can I trust that? We've built so much trust in our team for 8 to 10, 12 years, even some people here, that now bringing someone in new to the mix. And it's putting people where I think their strong suits are, you know, what they like to do, getting to know which person likes to work with another in a facet for what kind of turns on that little light bulb with them. What do they like? What do they like as far as in their workplace with something that would coordinate with what that other person is working with? It's not always a perfect pair. And it's not always going to be a perfect match with each person coming in, but also the team is, I think it comes a lot from leadership too, is bringing them in and pumping the new people up to say, hey, this is what they do good. This is why we're bringing them in. This is where their strong suits are. This is what we need. This is the service level we're going for. And they're not here to harm or either take away from what you're currently doing, but they're here to accent it. And a lot of people are fearful of that and what that looks like in either growing or trying to change that service level, that we're trying to give something just a little different than maybe someone else, or that extra support that maybe someone else doesn't have. So how do you mold that? So right before we got on this call, I just sent out a long email that laid out each role for all our new people, where their strong suits are going to be, what they're going to do, and how that's going to look in the next 6 months to us. And sometimes people will buy into that and sometimes they won't. But the whole part is the people that have your back and your team players are going to see your vision and how that's going to accentuate to everybody else on your team. And And once they do, then you kind of see all the fruits in that labor come together. And we've all been, one benefit to all this is we've all been working till midnight and 2 a.m. So I think everybody's a little bit more grateful to have extra team members. Sure. It's not as forceful maybe as it was at one time, but still helping them understand where they're going to be and how they're going to be helpful to each other.
And yes, it does start with leadership. It does start with laying it out and showing how they come together and building them up. And yes, change is never easy, but you're doing great. All right, Mitch, we are all warmed up and ready for these ladies to educate and inspire.
I was excited before this all started, but now I'm really excited. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, like I said, I was excited before this began, but listening to the roundtable, I'm really excited to hear what everybody has to say and how it's going to benefit the audience. So I just want to thank you all very much for doing this and, helping us out, because it's going to be awesome.
Great job, ladies. Can't wait to hear your individual sessions.
Yeah, we got a few minutes here before we bring on our first sponsor. So, I mean, does anybody else have anything else they would like to share before we move on?
I'm excited. I wish everyone a wonderful and successful day today. And I'm so, so proud for all of us to come together and show how amazing the leading ladies of mortgage are.
I would say, Laura, can you tell a little bit about yourself and how this got started for people who are maybe have not seen?
Sure. Well, actually, so Mitch, you can start with, I think after you finished your last mastermind, I think some people said, hey, why don't you do a woman mortgage one, right? Isn't that correct? I think that's how it originated. And then Mitch was like, hey, what are your thoughts on this? And I was like, oh no, this is the time. This is the time for us to do this and pull this together. And I have to tell you, as it started coming together, I just kept thinking to myself, what better opportunity for us this year, to just come together and share. And then as you're speaking about 2021, and I'm in denial, I'm stuck in 2020. I feel like this year is going to keep going on and on. It'll never change. But 2021 is coming on very, very soon. And you guys, the things that you're speaking about are literally the foundational blocks to have a successful 2021 and beyond. It's recruitment, it's education, it's getting the business, branding yourself. It's all of the components, communication, how to keep a customer for life, how to work with your team, how to build that team and have diversity. It's literally all the foundational blocks to be able to move forward, all in one location. So for Mitch to be able to provide this opportunities to our industry, this is just an amazing day. It really is.
Absolutely. And I couldn't have done it without each and every one of you for, agreeing to come on and do this without, I know a few of you pretty well, and others I haven't, spoken with at all when I reached out to you and, asked you to take this on. And, some of you don't have much experience with going live on camera, but that didn't stop you from saying, let's do it and let's make it happen. So I'm excited, and I'm very happy that you guys agreed to join us.
Right. And that's part of it. Mitch, I'm glad that you brought that up, because yes, some of us, you've seen us many times and you've heard us before. But one of the key components and something that, Kelsey's going to get everybody comfortable, with doing this. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there. Michelle mentioned showing up, being part of things. We all, and Ginger's going to speak about your strengths. We all have different strengths. Some people are going to have strong suits doing one thing versus another, but you have to know that putting yourself out there, you are the very best. Corrina Carter, Ginger Bell, Michelle, you are the best that person in the whole world. Don't be afraid to share it. We want to see many different people out there. So if you do have that opportunity, raise your hand and say yes, because we want to hear from you. We all have value to share, and we want to hear from you.
Absolutely. And I think Michelle is a perfect example of that. Like she said, she just started putting herself out there and being open and honest. And, I've heard 100 people say that they love Michelle because of her authenticity, which, it is a word that we use all the time now, like you said. But, she is the definition of authenticity. She's real about her business. She's real about her life. She's real, about everything that's going on, whether it's, shrimp boils or her kids homeschooling or, moving, she's open, an open book. And I think that's what people really take to her, for that reason.
Y'all go through it with me. Hey, look, I have to say it. And when I met it was a bigger, I always kind of loved Facebook. I did. And, I got a lot of upheaval about it for a long time. A lot of people would come to me and be like, don't post that, or don't say that, or people think you look dumb. And I always just kind of went with it because I was like, I just feel like it's the right thing to do. As many people would think I'm dumb or look stupid or I make silly faces and my live videos are all over the place. Don't pick your teeth. Like, I just kind of went with it. That's just me. Like, if you meet me in person, I'm going to pick my teeth. I'm going to fix my hair. So I was just always me. And so I had a lot through the years where people would straight up be like, don't do that. We're unfriending you, whatever, close people. And I always just went with it. And I was like, no, there's a mission behind what I'm doing. And like I said, it was always an unclear mission. I just kind of wanted those always follow through my own, through what I believe that is meant for me. And so I kind of just went through it, even felt through all the people who came and told me that I was dumb, and I still did it, and I still showed up. And whenever I look back after 10 years of doing it, and then I look back and I found AIM community, and I found I've met amazing brokers from the entire country, people that I've gotten to hug at AIM events, and people that I've gotten to call when I had issues, and it's a bigger support system than I think anyone knows. And so when you look at that camaraderie and that, it makes all the little silly things that I did and all the people who said, don't do that on Facebook, it just kind of solidified it, because I would have never found that family in my mind without, and look, there's family fights in the communities. It's always going to happen. But you're still, because not everybody, especially when you bring a bunch of smart people together, they're not all going to agree all the time. And that's okay. The good thing is, like I said, is go back to take what you want from each individual person and learn from everyone has something good to offer. And so, that's my biggest thing about being authentic is I believe that there was a reason I did that 14 years ago. People speak on it now, and I'm like, I did that. I didn't even know I was doing it. I didn't even know this was a professional topic. And then, like I said, it kind of led me into AIM. It led me into meeting great lenders. It led me into saving my consumers' money. It led me into so many other things. But I was literally just being myself.
Right.
And so
I think the lesson is people just need to, you can't have a completely different personality and completely different, way that you carry yourself online as you do in person. It's got to match, because people are going to see right through it.
Well, that's the thing. Like I literally, and I know it's people who love me. They're like, somebody I love, you cannot pick your teeth. I'm like, look, when I'm in front of somebody at the thing, I'm like, okay, is my braces getting on my nerves? And that's just what I do. I'm going to fix my hair. I'm a fidgeter. If you see me in person, I'm going 90 miles an hour. That's why you see me on all the Facebook pages. You see me constantly on there. It's because in real life, I'm going 90 miles an hour. That's just how I operate. And so I just try to be myself. And like I said, you're going to get beat up for it, or you may get people who look at you and like, look at this weirdo. And you'll have people who will find things to talk bad about you, and they will find things to make up. But, you know, and it hurts. I'm not like a robot. It hurts when they do that. And I have my little cry, and then I, you know, get up the next day and I go about my business. So it's just not to let people or the naysayers knock you down, because they will try. I mean, and they will try over and over. And the more authentic you are and the more you succeed, it seems like the more that, you know, you will. I don't want people to think, oh, it's, you know, that it's everyday rainbows and sunshine, because it's not, you know.
Right.
But
you know, on your online persona is going to be the same as real life. Some people are going to love you when they meet you, and some people are going to, you know, be like, no, I don't want nothing to do with that person. So most definitely. Well, I just want to say, you know, thank you all very much for doing this. I'm gonna let you guys out of here, and I'm gonna bring on Eddy Perez, who's one of our sponsors. And then after Eddy, we are going to have Kelsey jump on and do her presentation. So I'm going to bring him in and get that going.
Great job, ladies. Take care.
Thank you.